Hey, Dale the Librarian here. This first video will be about how to use the open web to discover some of the trends and ideas that's going on related to your project, looking for an inventor of a particular population. So one thing to be aware of is if you go out to the open web, there's a lot of people that are pointing fingers and they'll say, well, this person is clearly a Cuban, so they're a Cuban musician, and like Wikipedia and AI sometimes gets those things wrong. I was in a class where that example happened. Somebody said, oh yeah, they're Cuban, and somebody from the back said, they're not from Cuba. And it was like embarrassing because they'd cited something and it was wrong. So be that as it may, if you look at my picture and you go nerd, you might be justified in saying that. But unless I identify as a nerd in like a census form or in a questionnaire or survey, that data is filled with bias. So I give this in more detail over here when we're talking about cosplay and Sailor Moon. So if you, another example is if you go out to the census, there was this movement where people would be like labeling their religion as Jedi. And it got to the point where they're like, okay, we know that you're not Jedi because that's a movie, it's Star Wars. But it got to the point where people had to say, hey, if don't mark yourself as Jedi, you're throwing off our data in the census. So we'll get into the more scholarly aspects of things like that, but just to be aware, when you're out on the open web, be aware that some things might be incorrect. So for example, who invented the gas mask? You might go after a particular invention. Interestingly, Garrett Morgan self-identified as a black man, but this doesn't show up in the invention. If you go, actually here it does, African-American inventors. Well, I'll be darned, isn't that cool? When you go to the scholarship in the Marriott Library, it's irrelevant to, like if somebody invents the artificial heart or if somebody figures out a way of getting electricity through a single micron foil or something like that. They don't list ancestry or demographic data. It's evidence-based, right? So beware that out on the open web and coming to academia we have to sometimes go through these things. But if you do find, in Gemini you can say, famous black inventors. So these are being pulled, this AI is being pulled from the open web. You can say famous women inventors from the 21st century. There should be somebody in here about RNA. Oh yeah! This is the person, I think, who helped us get the RNA antibiotics for COVID so fast, I think. So use these with a grain of salt. How do you validate these? You just take the person's name, and this is why I had the library catalog in here, or Academic Search Ultimate. If you put their name in quotes, it'll look for those two words stuck together. So this catalog, it doesn't have a smart search. So if you misspell something, you're only going to get those things. And what you can do from here is you can find all the articles that the person wrote or things that are written about the person. And this is where you would get some of that information that you're looking for. If you're not on campus, make sure and log in here. Otherwise, you might not have full text access to this particular book. Waits slowly. And you should go right into the book after it does that dual authentication thingamajig, which I think I already did. Nope, I'm doing it currently. So if you want to find out data that is that's been vetted, that's not on the open web, sometimes it's good to dig around in the catalog. But you can always ask me on things like this. Just reach out to me at any time, dale.larson@utah.edu. D-U.